Carrie is excused. Counselor Lopez,
Present.
Counselor McKeel. Here. Counselor Oberst,
Yes.
Counselor Salinas Oliveros,
Here.
Mayor Coons.
I am present, and we will do the flag salute. And Counselor Oberst, would you lead us in that this evening? Thank you for that. And thank you for being so festive this evening, Counselor Oberst. We appreciate that. Before we get to the consent agenda for this evening, I do have one correction to our agenda. We do have an executive session this evening to perform a 6-month evaluation, believe it or not, on our city manager, Rochelle Roden. That will come at the end of the meeting. So we will do our business agenda and then the reports, council comments, and then we will adjourn to executive session. So just that slight adjustment. And speaking of the consent calendar, we have the meeting minutes from December 3rd. Any additions, corrections?
I move to accept the consent calendar.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor McKeel, for the motion and Councillor Oberst for the second. Any other things on that? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, and seeing none, we will move forward. We do have time set on our agenda this evening for public comments, and I would recognize Jason Ridgway to come up and 3 minutes. Councillor Carey's not here to run the timer, and we don't have any backup trains, so we'll use the honor system here.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. Hopefully that's better. So the issue I wanted to discuss tonight was the proposed EDA grant that the city is considering accepting tonight. The purpose of the grant is to bring in some dollars with some matching funds that the city provides to, my understanding is to spur some discussion or some study of the economic impact toward the agriculture system as it relates to the BIPOC community within Monmouth. My questions are, not having heard that there was a demand for this or problems in the marketplace that affected the members of that community, I was unaware that that was an issue that needed to be addressed within the city. While the purpose and the intent of the parties that requested the grant might have been very noble, what I'm concerned of is that the city sets a course to begin accepting or encouraging growth or opportunity for persons based solely on unchangeable traits such as skin color. If they were merit-based or if there was some incentive to allow people to compete for a grant, I think those would be noble causes. It sets, in my view, a dangerous precedent that we tilt the scales of fairness based on things that people can't control. So my concern is, can we discuss that as a matter of fairness? Bigger conversation is equity versus equality questions, and I'm not sure exactly what the criteria is for equity. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And that will move us to our business agenda. We do have a second reading of ordinance number 1417, which is the signing of the encroachment agreement with Western Oregon University. And I would welcome a motion as proposed in your packet to begin discussion. Oh, and we'll have Carter up first to review this. Thank you.
Yes, hello. Good evening. This is the second reading of the right-of-way encroachment ordinance, the agreement with WU to allow the placement of a building identification sign in the right-of-way of North Monmouth. We came to you with this a while ago. We missed a meeting, so this is just the second reading of that ordinance.
All right, now we've taken care of the formalities.
I would move to adopt ordinance 1417, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to approve the installation by Western Oregon University of certain improvements within the Monmouth Avenue public right-of-way and granting an exception to the provision of Monmouth City Code 1210-160 and 1215-050.
Second.
Thank you, Counselor Oberst for the motion and Counselor Salinas Oliveros for the second. Any additional discussions or questions? All right, and Phyllis, if you could please take the roll call.
Counselor McKeel,
Yes.
Counselor Lopez. Aye. Counselor Salinas Oliveros,
Aye.
Counselor Oberst,
Yes.
Counselor Belts.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, thank you very much. And Carter's already gone, so guess good thing we have questions. That does bring us to our second agenda item, and Suzanne Duffner, our Community and Economic Development Director, joining us to talk about the EDA grant. Thank you, Suzanne.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening to members of the City Council. Yes, I'm here to share the exciting news with you tonight, a little early Christmas present, I guess, that the city has been awarded $80,000 in grant funding from the U.S. Economic Development Administration from the EDA. And this is to complete a market feasibility study that would support year-round indoor artisan and farmers market that's supported by Black, Indigenous, and people of color BIPOC farmers in the Mid-Willamette Valley. So, and this kind of came out, this project, it came out from an earlier pop-up market that we worked on with the cultivating or community market, harvest market in the fall. And it was a really great, fun event that brought out community members, brought out students from Western Oregon University to support our BIPOC farmers and makers in the Mid-Valley. And so the vision here is to create a space that would allow a year-round market. This has been having a farmers market's been one of the priority projects that was identified in our downtown improvement plan that was just recently completed. So it hits on a lot of the goals that come out of our economic development strategy and our downtown plan. The grant would begin work in February of this year, so it's a pretty quick turnaround project, about 9 to 12 months. We would go through a request for proposal, competitive bid process for qualified consultants to submit proposals and review those and select a consultant to work with us on it. We also have carved out some of the project funding that would be used for community outreach and feedback from the Cultural Harvest Collective that did the temporary market over the September month and the Mid-Willamette BIPOC Farmers Co-op. So getting some good local feedback on that with our partners. There is a 20% match requirement of $20,000 that goes along with the project. Pretty standard for the EDA federal grants. The match would be provided through two sources. One would be our Urban Renewal Agency, which we do have funds for professional services and studies, the amount of $12,500, and then city staff time to administer the grant and manage the project in the amount of $7,500. So that's a kind of soft match in terms of an in-kind contribution. We do know in there that staff would need to bring back a supplemental budget report since we didn't anticipate when we initially did the budget that we would be receiving the grant funds for that. So pretty exciting. And we've basically got the two alternatives there to either direct staff to enter into the grant agreement. We do need to decide whether or not to accept the award by January 7th. There's a timeline on that. And then, of course, you always have the option to not accept the grant award. But there's a sample motion there on there as well, if you're ready for that. And I'd be happy to answer questions you might have about it.
And I just want to, we don't apply for a lot of these types of grants. Was this a call to, did we receive notice of this opportunity? And what made us choose this project to respond to? Was that one of the goals of the grant, for example?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm trying to remember. I think we found out that there were partners at the COG. The COG is typically our link with the EDA. They prepare a comprehensive economic development strategy for the region. And the EDA has various pots of grant funding available at different times. This particular pot of money came from a disaster recovery from a severe winter storm, I believe it was. And so they had some funds that were left over and available to Polk County community. And I think Yamhill might have been part of that as well. So that was kind of the notification that, hey, there's some funds available. And then it's like, given it was a really short turnaround, we look for projects that align with the high priorities in our plans and that are pretty much ready to go and have the partners assembled, because it does take a bit of time, right, to get those work plans and budgets put together. So yeah, I think with the combination of this being an opportunity that we can seize on pretty quickly, and that it was nice to see it align again with our local economic development strategy that speaks to building on our assets of taking advantage of the rich agricultural region around us. And then, of course, we have goals that are looking at improving equity and increasing economic opportunities for all people in our community, especially people of economically disadvantaged community. And then it also aligns with council value statements of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then our regional goals of, again, supporting agricultural and food-based businesses in our region. So hopefully that answers your question.
Great alignment of strategy and opportunity. I like it. Other comments or questions for Suzanne, Councilor Oberst, then Councilor Lopez?
So I noticed that this is strictly feasibility at this point. We're not actually going to engage in indoor space yet, et cetera. We're just looking at, is it a possible thing? Do we have a space available? Who in the area might be interested in participating, et cetera, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that question, Councilor Oberst. Right, the feasibility study will look at kind of the business plan side of things. What are the operation costs? What kind of space is needed? What are some examples of other successful indoor market spaces and food hubs? Our project partners are already looking at setting up some field trips to go look at other examples of these in other communities like Astoria and Springfield. So it's doing all of kind of the background investigation and research, building that case, finding out, what type of a setup in particular is going to be most beneficial in terms of the programming of the space, and getting, the feedback from the partners who would be running that space. So it's not engaging in actual land acquisition or building improvements. It's strictly a feasibility study.
We had an indoor farmers market at one time many years ago. It evolved into a flea market. Hope that doesn't happen. I don't think it will. We had a second one in the park in conjunction with Polk County and the folks over in Dallas. And it unfortunately ran from something like 10 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon, when everybody who doesn't live and work in town couldn't access it. And so it finally spiraled down.
On a Wednesday.
Right, on Wednesday, right. And so and I'm a big believer in farmers markets as an economic development tool. And I was honored by the council many years ago, be sent to the National Main Street Convention. And I attended a class there that pointed out, you can't just call a farmer's market and expect it to succeed. You have to have somebody in charge of, you have to have rules. If it isn't grown here, it can't be sold here, kind of thing. Or, not. It depends on what rules you want to set up. But you can't just let it go to chance. And so this is exciting to see. Let's have a feasibility study first. Find out if this is something that there's a market for and participants for and a space to go. And then we can worry about the details down the road. But yeah, very, very good stuff. Thank you.
Counselor Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Suzanne, I have first I'd like to say that I appreciate the leveraging of federal funds and bringing these amazing assets into the local community. I think this is an unbelievable opportunity and really not only syncs up very closely with our council values, council goals, but also achieves something that I hear the community and I hear my neighbors talk a lot about: availability of the locals farmers market, the culture and community that would bring to our town, and of course, local produce and local craft goods. I have a question about the the link to the BIPOC community. In the statement, it says that it would be supported by Black, Indigenous, and people of color farmers. Could you speak a little bit to what supported by means here?
Yeah, no, thank you for that additional explanation. So supported by is providing opportunities to kind of take away some of the barriers that historically BIPOC population has had in getting into the agricultural space, whether it be from land, being able to actually have farming land to be able to go out and create products, or capital or funds to be able to grow and start a business. It takes money to make money, right? The old saying. So, but yeah, supported by is looking at providing actual retail space where we would have BIPOC farmers and business owners be able to sell their wares. And this is all, still in like kind of the initial stages of studying this. Obviously, that's what a feasibility study is. But in talking with a partner with the cultural or the cultivating, sorry, get our name right, the Cultural Harvest Collective, too many C's on that. The idea is not to not allow a more inclusive and participation. It's just that there are barriers to a lot of BIPOC farmers and artisans to be able to participate in farmers markets from being undercapitalized or just not having the connections or know how to get into a field that they haven't typically been involved in. So providing a little bit more extra support for that. But yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the feasibility study is understanding, who's going to own and operate it. Is it at a co-op based ownership or is it single ownership? Are there criteria for participating in that market space? What, could those criteria look like? So, sorry, I don't have all the answers at this point, but all good questions that we'll be looking into. Yeah.
Thank you. One clarifying point there. So I think I heard you say that this would, not close the doors to other individuals, but just lower barriers for individuals who historically have had barriers in front of them to participating in things like this. Is that correct?
I believe that's a correct statement.
All right. Well, I believe that systems have for many years, erected barriers to entry to people of color, and I'm excited that our city is looking forward to potentially lowering some of those barriers. Madam Mayor, if you would entertain a motion, I'd like to place a motion to frame the conversation.
Let's make sure we don't have any other comments.
I'm sorry.
Yes. Ready to go? All right. Thank you, Councilor Lopez.
All right. I propose to direct, or I move to direct staff to enter into an agreement to accept EDA grant funding to complete a feasibility study for a year-round indoor farmers market supported by Black, Indigenous, and people of color farmers.
Thank you, Counselor Lopez, for the motion, and Counselor Salinas Oliveros for the second. Seeing no additional comments, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and get that grant agreement, which any federal funds, it's always quite a process, but thank you so much. All right, and our final report this evening, update on the soon to expire opportunity to move around ARPA funds. Our Finance Director, Susie Marston.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Susie Marston. I'm the Finance Director for the city. Tonight, I'm here to give you the final ARPA spending update. You'll remember that the city received just over $2.35 million of ARPA funding clear back to 2021. It's been almost 3 years. Council adopted the initial spending plan on January 4th, 22. And since that time, it's undergone a couple of revisions as staff has identified alternate uses and just as we've worked through it all. So tonight I am reporting that as of November 30th of this year, we have $581,000 of this over $2 million to use. We need to have this money obligated by the end of this year, December 31st. And what that means is basically we need to order goods and services by December 31st or enter into a contract or purchase orders or something that commits us to spending this money. If we're not able to obligate it all, then we risk having to send that amount of money back to the Treasury and not be able to use it. So we recently evaluated projects that were part of the spending plan, and we identified a couple of projects in the source water development categories and the business resiliency program that amounted to about $130,000 that we could see weren't going to be obligated by the end of December. So we've redirected that and identified some needs that are we still have needs in the City Hall building. And one of them is getting an audible fire alarm system, which we don't have. So we felt that was important because if we're going to rent our public spaces and we have people in this room and we don't have a fire alarm, that's a huge safety issue, not to mention employees during the day. So the audible fire alarm system, Polk IT has recommended further upgrades to our the door security system at our police department. And then we also are needing to do further upgrades to the audio system in the council chambers, which we've checked out. So that's what the $130,000 will be redirected to. We have also had some savings in other areas where we decided to purchase the hearing loop system that we now have here in the council chambers. And we're also going to be ordering more furniture for the council chambers to accommodate the rental space, and then also some more furniture in the lobby to give our customers a place to fill out water applications and wait and be a little more comfortable. So on page 13 and 14, I provided a table that shows how all of this money has been used and will be used by the city. And I think you can see by the table, Monmouth has put this money to good use. I mean, we've been able to use it in a lot of different areas. it meets the council's original intent of, let's see, working on water infrastructure investments, local business support, and then also meeting human needs in the community as well. And I would like to point out, in the spring, community development kicked off a business resiliency grant program where we were able to award over $118,000 to local businesses in the community. So that was good. Let's see. I guess, so the summary is provided for you. I did mention if we don't, use this money, then we'll have to send it back to the Treasury. I think it's important to note that by using this money on the PD door security, the fire alarm system, and the audio, these are all expenses that could be future capital expenses of the general fund that are hard for us to afford right now, given the budget challenges. So with that, I've provided a proposed motion to approve the spending plan, and I am open for questions if you have any.
I move to approve the ARPA spending plan as revised.
I second that.
John, we were going to give it to,
I withdraw that motion and hand it off to a different counselor.
Thank you, Councilor Oberst. I move to approve the ARPA spending plan as revised.
I'll second that.
I'll third it.
thank you, Counselor Salinas Oliveros for that motion and Counselor McKeel for the second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And seeing none opposed, this is great. It's great to see the wide range of things we were able to support and do. And, some of them obviously in the very, very early days, such as the contactless registration system for the senior center and support for the Polk County Resource Center, which has blossomed obviously into a much that bigger resource, but also some things like you say we really needed to do, and the business marketing and resiliency, all those courses that were offered in conjunction with Independence during the height of the pandemic, and things really, really impressive work. So again, leveraging those dollars. So thank you, Susie. All right. Yes, that brings us to reports, but you have something on this, Councilor Lopez.
Madam Mayor, I move to reconsider the motion regarding the acceptance of the EDA grant to reflect that Councilor Salinas Olivero may have potentially moved that motion and I may have seconded that motion.
All right, reconsideration. Again, the EDA grant motion. If there is any further question or discussion, or we'll accept a motion on that.
Seconded.
All right. All in favor of the motion to reconsider, please signify by saying aye.
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 And seeing none opposed, then we go back to the EDA grant, and I will entertain a motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Councilor Lopez. I direct staff to enter into an agreement to accept EDA grant funding to complete a feasible study for a year-round indoor farmers market supported by Black, Indigenous, and people of color farmers.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Salinas Oliveros for the motion and Councilor Lopez for the second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 So nice to be able to vote for that twice.
Yes. And seeing none opposed, although it doesn't double the $80,000 we get just because we reconsidered. I wish it was. That'd be awesome. All right. Thank you very much. All right, that brings us to reports because we're not going back on the second reading, people. So for my mayor's report this evening, I just want to mention that last night was our final all hands meeting with Mayor John McCardle as a co-convener. And so we had an opportunity to sort of celebrate the successes that that group has had and assure him that it will continue without him, but sort of in a long line of farewells to Mayor McCardle, we had a great opportunity to gather our partners together, and again, that continues to be an amazing group where we are learning a lot. Especially nice as we're preparing for an upcoming legislative session, and Rochelle will be keeping us well informed of opportunities that we'll have to engage on that, but that was something. I also was able to attend the Western Oregon University President's Dinner, and Western has announced that its first comprehensive fundraising campaign is publicly underway. They set, I was on the board at the time, set a goal of $20 million to raise. And again, this is not for a building. This is for scholarships. This is for support to university programming. And they announced they have raised $17 million towards that goal. So this, you will be hearing more about ways to support Western Oregon University scholarships, athletics, and opportunities. And I hope that folks find a way to do so if possible. So it was great to be there and be recognized as great partners of the university, and appreciate everything they're doing in our community. We do have some appointments for you this evening before we give our reports on boards and commissions. I would like to thank Councillor McKeel and Councillor Oberst, who sat with me as we interviewed candidates for the Budget Committee. We have 3 openings on the Budget Committee, and tonight we actually bring you 2 applicants that we have approved to this point. One is Tom Perry. Tom has been a longtime member of the Budget Committee and is ready to reengage, feeling that he has the time to give, and also that he is able to bring back that historical perspective with the unfortunate loss of our chair and longtime member, Judge Bill Horner. Tom brings some really good historical expertise. And the second candidate is very new to service and volunteer for our community. His name is Travis Youngs. Travis is involved in nonprofit work in Salem, but lives here, raises his family, children here, and is very interested in engaging on a more local level. So we bring you those 2 nominations for budget. In addition to that, we had a 3rd applicant for the Budget Committee, but that's not what I'm asking for your consideration of. Megan Youngs, again, she's from a pioneer, Monmouth Pioneer family, was raised here. And in talking about the budget, we found that Megan has quite a passion for our parks and recreation programming in the community. And I invited her to actually join Parks and Rec, mother of young children, and somebody, again, who has lived here but not really been involved in our volunteers. So she accepted that appointment, and I would ask for your approval of those 3 positions.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you, Councillor Lopez, for the motion, Councillor McKeel for the second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 We'll be able to fill that 3rd Budget Committee slot, but we cannot make that appointment until the person is no longer a city councillor, which will happen in January. So, I don't know who that would be, but we'll be bringing you that appointment at the first meeting in January. So thank you for that. And that brings us to reports of boards and commissions. What have they been doing? Counselor Salinas Oliveros.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will report on Arts and Culture Commission. We met early this month. We met on Thursday. And Barbara Barbara Cronin from the Monmouth Senior and Community Center, she presented us with the AARP funding for a mural. And so she gave us some great information, and she asked the Monmouth Arts and Culture Committee to help with the timeline and process to bring the mural project to fruition. So that will be a really nice partnership to bring. So hopefully that will start soon. We had a budget update, and we've used really primarily a little bit of our budget for the Tiny Art Show that's happening in January. So keep your eyes open for that. We did talk about the mural code, and we'll be working on the mural code this year, and hopefully you'll see that come to council early, like February, March, somewhere in there. So hopefully you'll see that soon. And then we talked about our next artist, Bruce Belts, who will be in our next rotation. And so we reviewed his application and talked about his works. And so he will be contacted, if he hasn't been contacted already, for the next round. And then, let's see, I talked about the Tiny Art Show. Setup is Saturday, January 18th, if anybody would like to volunteer for the setup. It goes from the 21st through the 25th, so Tuesday through Friday, January 25th. And the reception is Saturday, January 26th, I believe around 1 o'clock. So you're all welcome to come to the reception. You're welcome to volunteer with setup, anything like that. So county votes, if you want to volunteer, please contact Phyllis or Sharon Oberst, who is the lead on that. So, and she's worked really hard with the library board, the library, to do that. So, and then let's see, pedestals. We've talked about that. We have some really great sculptures that we can't really show off at the City Hall, some that we have already. And we talked about how to really present them in a professional manner here at the City Hall. And then if we have other artists who have sculptures that we would like to show. So we talked about that. And I do want to thank Counselor Oberst, who is a fine woodworking professional and has offered his services to build those. And we're so happy, and thank you for doing that. We really appreciate your time
So,
and effort.
I don't know if plywood, even if it's nice plywood, counts as fine woodworking, but I'll take it. And I don't know if boxes count, but yeah, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to this little project. It'll be a good, a couple of afternoons and done. So looking forward to it.
Well, thank you so much. It's very appreciated. And and then our own Phyllis Bowman reported on the Oregon Arts Commission reception that happened December 5th. And that was a really exceptional turnout. And Phyllis had some great conversations, and we're looking forward to maybe some future partnerships, not just locally, but with the tribes as well. And hopefully having some artwork from, our partners at Grand Ron. And so that will be coming later as well. And then we talked about some of the cultural heritage events that happen throughout the year. I invited Councilor McKeel to come and talk a little bit more about that. I know that there's a group for AAPI who's looking at having performers. And as Arts and Culture Commission, we look at the variety of art. It's not just the fine arts, it's also performing arts and things like that. So I'd like to learn more about what's happening and how we can possibly support those efforts. So thank you.
Well, that was a very active report for your very last one. So thank you very much for that. Counselor Ober.
I need to follow on the arts report just briefly because my spouse is there, and so I get an inside view. I think it's tomorrow, Phyllis, maybe you can help me remember this, that there's a opportunity for adults to come into the library, pick up materials. What are you telling me? There's something tomorrow. Oh, it's part of yours. Okay, sorry, I will let you go because I don't have the dates and times. I just want to make, we didn't get that out last meeting of, opportunities for kids to come in and so on. So I want to make sure that that got said tonight. So it's on you. I'm sorry, I figured it'd be part of the arts report, but obviously it's not.
So Counselor Oberst withdraws his information
I
about
withdraw my information.
the activities at the library.
Can
Counselor
we have
McKeel.
that in the record? No. Should I go to the library report? Okay, great. I would like to give the library report. And we did not have a library board meeting, but there are lots of dates and activities. And as Counselor Oberst, he was just actually he was getting it ready, getting the teaser going.
I didn't say anything.
Yes, people can pick up their tiny art kits starting February. Why I'm rushing through the holidays. I'm going to start this whole all over again. So everybody can pick up their tiny art kits starting December 17th. And recipients must be present. So this could be a whole family event. The kits are 5x5 canvases, paint, an easel, and a paintbrush. And then on that same day, December 17th, people age 12 to adult, doesn't give a maximum on the adult, so I guess that goes all the way up. At 5 to 7 p.m., there's a tiny art paint night. And so people will get their kits, and Arts and Culture Commission will be available to provide painting advice. I don't see anything in here about wine, so that might be, because it has 12-year-olds. Never mind. Okay. And then, so on December 14th, so moving up a little bit, there's the Plant Propagation Education and House Plant Exchange on December 14th, 11 to 12. And this is going to be presented by the Polk County Master Gardeners. And people are welcome to bring happy, healthy, small house plants that they can exchange with folks. So that looks like a lot of fun and learning how to make sure your plants stay alive. And I'm going to that one. And just to save the date, already coming up as where I start in February, Saturday, February 8th, 2025 already, at 11 a.m., we are lucky enough to have the Oregon Black Pioneers coming back, and they're going to give a presentation, York of the Lewis and Clark Expedition. So that should be a really good program, and we're really fortunate actually to have the Oregon Black Pioneers here in this presentation. And that concludes my report, unless I missed something. Councilor Oberst.
Others?
Yes, very briefly. I forgot last time to mention from the Transportation Commission, ODOT will be coming in 2025 and 2026 and rebuilding a bunch of our handicapped accessible ramps at intersections, all up and down Main Street, both sides of the highway. And this is, I believe, in response to a lawsuit they lost about handicapped access, and they are loath to do any repaving until the new ramps are in place anywhere in the state, basically. And so we will continue to have bumpity bump near the intersection with 99 probably until those improvements are made. But they will eventually, we think, get around to doing some repaving along pieces of Main Street. And then the other one is the Safe Routes to School folks. Can you imagine pouring concrete today? They were doing it. And it absolutely astounded me. They had plastic hoops and tarps over the work they were doing, and they poured a couple of chunks of sidewalk along Jackson Street. They are down to one last corner to do at the corner of Main or Monmouth. Let me try again. Sacred Church, that's the corner. I remember it now. And, but they're closing in on it fast. They should be done. You said first week in January, I think, Rochelle? Yeah, by the end of January. And that includes, they still have to get stuff for the rapid flashing beacons. Apparently there are parts that are not quite yet available, but as soon as those are in, we'll have rapid flashing beacons again at Church Street, and at Heffley across Main, you know, and these are two very heavily used crosswalk, and the safety factor is going to go through the roof when those get in. So I was just floored to see people pouring concrete today. I'm sorry. I didn't think you could do that. And I actually stopped and rolled down my window and said, you guys are amazing. So they appreciated their appreciation. That's all.
Counselor Belts.
So I've got two reports, one for the senior center, the senior board. We had our annual holiday luncheon. Thank you, Mayor Kuntz, for starting that tradition. So I've continued that over the last few years. We had a wonderful discussion with the people that were there. They had just concluded a two-part series on communication, microaggressions, and a number of people attended. Some of the people that attended were there, and we discussed it a little bit further. Had a lovely lasagna lunch that I brought. Let's see. Secondly, I attended the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments board meeting today. Among the things that we discussed, we discussed the COG's full cost recovery plan, because in the past they've determined that they're actually not recovering full cost. Prices aren't going to go up significantly, but just how to do that. They operate in some ways like a business. They can't spend money they don't have coming in. So that was a pretty lengthy discussion. We adopted member dues structure. We did discuss the COG's legislative priorities. Again, a very robust discussion because there was concern from some individuals about is the COG aligning their priorities with the League of Oregon Cities priorities, and Prop 5 and 50 came up. And when you talk the county's perspective versus city's perspective versus others' perspective. And so it was a very healthy discussion, and we actually determined that we needed to put that off to our March meeting so that we could have a much more lengthy discussion. Well, no, we're not going to push it off to March because obviously that's after the legislative session starts. We're going to push that off to a separate meeting in January to make sure we have everybody in general agreement as to what those priorities should be going forward. A slate of officers for the 2024 board was presented and approved. So your 2020 COG board is Frank Lonergan, Mayor of Woodburn. He will be joining the executive team. Betsy Earls will be joining as vice president. I will be stepping into the role as COG chair. And Ian Davidson will be remaining on the board as the past president, which is how things are typically done. Lastly, you all should have received a request for award nominations for the annual dinner. The dinner is March the 5th. It'll be held at the Willamette Heritage Center. Please review the request for nominations. There's 3 wonderful awards. I think we even have award recipients probably in this room right now. So please review that. If you have any interest in nominating, there's a link right there on the nomination form. Nominations are accepted until January 31st of 2025. And lastly, it was also Mayor McCardle's last meeting, and he chose that time to talk about The Wall That Heals, which is coming to Independence in September. If you're not familiar with that, there are 30 cities within the United States that have been granted the opportunity to have this 3/4 scale Vietnam Veteran Memorial Wall brought in. It will be in Independence for 4 days, 24/7. They'll need about 150 volunteers to help with that. So when you see that information come around later on, please make sure you volunteer to help with that. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to take a moment to recognize another volunteer that we lost last week. Scott Campbell has served on our planning commission. He actually was a member of the planning commission, stepped back for a little bit, and had rejoined. He was serving sort of as the vice chair of the planning commission, conducting the meetings when the chair was not available. And unfortunately, Scott died unexpectedly. So I just want to take a second, maybe a moment of silence. We'll thank him for his service and our thoughts to his wife Shelley and their family who are dealing with this, and thank him for the work he's done for our planning commission and our community. So just a few seconds. Thank you for that indulgence. We'll listen to our city manager, Rochelle Roden, who's been going to all the same meetings where you say goodbye to John McCardle. I'm sure she's getting tired of that too, because she went to one clear over in Hermiston.
Thank you, Mayor. So the mayor mentioned it, but on Friday we had an LOC board meeting, which was in Hermiston. And so we drove over there and Mayor McCardle was there. He had to leave a little early because he had to get back here for the YMCA benefit, which he emceed that evening. So yeah, he was, yeah. So I'd love to update you on the trolley. So exciting news today. Our third trolley was repaired last night. Very excited. And so it should be back on the road Monday. We are going to keep the backup bus just to make sure that it's running and everything's going smoothly, but very excited about that. Also, the trolley building is completed. It has electric. We're just waiting on the final certificate of occupancy. I think they have to pour a little slab out the door and get that done, but that'll be there, and the trolleys will be moved in there and they will be protected. Next, I'd like to update you on, so you are aware that because you accepted the award for the senior center, the new bus, so that has been completed. All the paperwork and documentation was done this week. And so Barbara Cronin will be flying out to Tennessee to pick the bus up in January. It'll actually save us $3,300 by her, and her husband's going to go with her so that there's two people. I didn't want to put her out on the road by herself. So they're going to be bringing the bus back. So we should have that by the end of January. And then the van that the senior center, the older one, we're going to be donating to the city of Falls City, and it will be used to get veterans to medical appointments from that area. So we're excited about that. In regards to the homeless shelter application, yesterday the notice of application was sent out. It's a 14-day written public comment period, so that will commence on 12/30. Council should have also received an email just to let you know that had gone out. So I want to, yeah. And also there's a FAQ that staff completed that is up on the website as well. So you could refer folks to that if they ask you questions, but that's also out there. Riddle Road, that project, currently there are 4 buildings that are being worked on, and in January they're going to pull 3 more permits for 3 more buildings. So we're excited about that progression. MLK Day, so city staff has been working with the WU Career Center to get volunteers going for the January 20th day of service. If you know of anyone who needs assistance, and can please let us know, let Suzanne or myself know, so that we can get them signed up to possibly be a recipient of that work that day. Also, we emailed out January 25th. There's a joint ethics and public meetings training. It's being held in Independence. So I sent the link out yesterday in an email to sign up, but if you could let me know if you're going to attend, just shoot me a note, because we have to arrange for lunch and those types of things, then we can get that set up and going. If you are unable to attend, there's online webinars that you can attend instead. So please, if you can attend, let me know and I'll get that information over to you as well. And then just a reminder that on December 25th, on Christmas Day, the Senior Center is having the community Christmas dinner from 11 to 4. It's free to anyone who wants to attend, and they would love volunteers if you happen to be available, and they'd love volunteers just to come and sit and have fellowship with them, with whoever's there, if you're interested in that. So that's all I have.
And then we also have the elected essentials training scheduled for February, if you just kind of want to remind folks about what we did about registering for that.
Okay. And so it is, is it February 7th? You have the date, right? Okay. So I signed everyone up for it, so that it's there and that you have a seat because the classes, there's, they're all over the state. This one's in Salem. So everyone is registered for it. If you are unable to attend, let me know so I can let the staff know as well that there's an opening there. Okay.
Yeah, that's February 5th, actually, and that is not mandatory, obviously. The ethics training we do have to do, that's a law, but the elected essentials is just another opportunity to brush up on various things such as public meeting, public records, ethics, things like that, but also an opportunity to network, meet our, especially after we have some new incoming mayors and fellow councilors. So I do plan to attend and would, again, anybody who'd like to find, but if you're not going to, we need to release those slots to other communities.
I believe
the same thing.
it's the same thing. Yeah.
They
There is
just-
some new public meeting law changes though, and that'll be covered in the joint session over in Independent. Yeah, and some other things. But yeah, it's always a good refresher. But I understand it's a Saturday and it's all day.
Councilor McKee.
Thank you, Mayor. If someone wants to come and volunteer for the Christmas Day dinner, do they just show up? Is there somebody to call first to let them know?
Steve Milligan is managing that. So if you're interested, you can shoot me an email and I can get it forwarded to him or get you his information. Or you can call the senior center and ask for Steve. He's,
Oh, well, I would just tell you I'm volunteering 11 to 4.
okay,
And then
Ele-
I'm going home and watching
from
White
11
Christmas.
at 11 o'clock?
Yeah, I can be there the entire time.
Okay, I will let him know.
Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right. And that brings us to council comments and announcements.
So after the Western dinner on Thursday night, Saturday night, there was a great article in the Statesman about Western's fundraising efforts. And then my spouse got a text from a friend in Salem, and apparently one of the Portland television stations did a fabulous report on Western and Western's fundraising efforts and so on. So I believe the university is doing a good job of spreading the word about this. And I think one of the most exciting things from my perspective was they're looking for $10 million for scholarships, and they've only raised 11. So they're actually over the top on that one. And the area that they're behind most on is they're trying to deepen the pool of money for scholarships, et cetera, for sports. They need a new turf field and so on. So that's the fund that is shortest. So if anybody has an interest in supporting Western sports programs, they could use the help. The only other comment I would like to make is as I look down to the far end of the dais, I see Councilor Salinas Oliveros, who, Rebecca, it's been a pleasure serving for 4 years with you. And I'm sorry to see you go. I understand how life is. Sometimes you have to move on with things. But thanks so much for serving this city for 4 years. And you've been fabulous, and I really have enjoyed serving with you. So thank you very much.
Other comments or announcements if Councilor Oberst turns off his mic.
I just want to thank all of you. You're all part of my family now. And so it is difficult to leave. I'm excited to see all the great work that you're going to continue to do with the staff. It's been a pleasure to really get to know everything that the city does for our community. It's something it's very inspiring, and I hope you continue the good work. But I hope to see you, and, I hope that we get to work together in other capacities. But thank you so much for the opportunity and being a really great team. I do appreciate that a lot. I learned so much. And even when we question each other, we have been so respectful and professional and genuinely care about each other. And I think that made a huge difference. And I hope that you continue that and you have a good team regardless of who's on in this incoming 4 years. So thank you. And then are there any other comments, or may I go ahead and read the land acknowledgement? Would that be okay? Thank you. We would like to acknowledge the indigenous tribes and bands have been on the lands here and throughout Oregon since time immemorial. It is not lost on us that the Willamette Treaty forcibly removed these people from their homelands in 1855 to 1856, the year that the city of Monmouth was founded. We recognize the pre-existing and continued sovereignty of the federally recognized tribes that are a vibrant part of this region today, the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde Community and the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians, and thank them for sharing their perspective on how we might care for one another and the land so it can take care of us. We commit to engaging in a respectful and successful partnerships as stewards of these lands.
At this time, the city council will meet in executive session for the purpose of discussing performance evaluation of public officers and employees. The executive session is held pursuant to ORS 192.662I, performance evaluation of public officers and employees, which allows the council to meet in executive session. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Well, we're actually going to leave the room and go into the conference room. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of executive session, we will return to open session and welcome the audience back in, or will come back out. But it is not anticipated that any action will be taken this evening after returning from executive session, and we will adjourn at that time. So at this time, the staff that will be joining us, Rochelle will get to be there, and Lane will be in there with us as well. But they're going to set up in here for court tomorrow. So we'll adjourn, take 5 minutes and meet in the